Hi, this is Andrew Groh with the Missouri Society of CPAs. This is MOCPA Bar Talk, where we talk about the latest trends, news, and issues that matter to you the most. Let's get started. Welcome to this edition of Bar Talk. I'm Andrew Groh. Today we are here with Amanda Simmonds. Amanda, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Nice
Glad
to see
to
you.
be here.
Yeah, Amanda is the Business Process Optimization Specialist with Brown Smith Wallace, a CPA firm here in St. Louis. We've known each other for a really long time. And today we're going to talk about CPA firm administrators. Amanda, welcome, and tell us a little bit about firm administrators. What do you do?
Well, right now, I mainly am looking at business processes and how to help our firm improve those, a lot of times through the implementation of technology that will make those processes better. This is a recent position, but I've been in the firm administration world and CPA firms for about 13 years, originally in Springfield, Missouri. Got to step into my first firm administrator role with Elliott Robinson and Company.
Okay, yeah.
And then now I've been at Brown Smith Wallace for about 4 years.
And that's fantastic. And we've known each other for 3-4 years, something like
sure.
that, and involved in a couple other aspects of our profession. I know we've worked together kind of hand in glove with our firm administrator community. Can you tell us a little bit about your involvement there?
Yeah, so that has been one of the best things I think that I've been able to do in my current role is just work with you and the area firm administrators to really get this Missouri firm administrator community up and running. And so we've been working on that, like you said, for the last few years. The group has gotten much bigger.
Yes,
we've got representation all over the state of Missouri who will join our phone calls and our meetings. And then something exciting that we were able to do was make a joint effort with CPA FMA, and now the same group is also a Missouri chapter of that national organization. So it's been really fun to just bring this group of people together and give them a community of people who understand what they're doing every day.
Yeah, and you wear leadership hats for both, kind of organizations, and it's been really great to see your community grow and really thrive. You all put together several different events over the course of the year. Can you share a little bit about some of the things you've got going on there?
Yeah, so we have started rotating our meetings. We usually bring in a guest speaker on a topic that's relevant to that group. And then one of the favorite parts that we do is a roundtable. So it's just a time to discuss what's going on, what your struggles are, and if anybody else in the room can help with that. And so we've been rotating those through member firms across the state. So we've gotten an opportunity to see some of the spaces that are a part of this membership, and it's been a really great opportunity to do that.
Yeah, and that's super cool. It's been great to be a part of that. You guys meet quarterly. I know that I'm sure whoever's listening to this podcast, there will be a quarterly event coming up, so we'll get into that in a little bit. So tell us, kind of first off, about roles of CPA firm administrators. Our profession, we spend a lot of time, especially, of course, with CPAs, CPA firms, what CPAs do, how CPA firms operate. But talk a little bit about the role and roles of CPA firm administrators.
Yeah, so that is a very diverse title, and it really depends on the size of the firm, sometimes even where the firm is located, and also the skill level of the person. So I've seen, we might have some office managers all the way up to partners or COOs or director of administration. So it is a very large group of people. The responsibilities might be varied also. You might have responsibilities for HR. You might be doing the HR, the facilities, the payroll, everything. Or you might be directing the people who do that. So it is very broad. It's kind of a catch-all for that kind of firm manager role in CPA firms.
Yeah, and again, going back to the idea of CPA firm practice. practice management.
Yeah.
Kind of all of the different things that go into making a CPA firm grow and thrive and power the professionals there. Maybe a little bit, you talked a little bit about different size firms. Why does firm size matter for firm administrators?
It depends on, I think the firm size dictates how closely the managing partner holds the responsibilities that kind of on that line will go from a managing partner to a firm administrator. If you're a very small firm, the managing partner might be doing a lot of those things still. If you're a large firm, the managing partner is probably not
going to be doing all those things, right?
Not doing the payroll, not doing those things. So I think it's just a function of, as the firms grow, the leadership realizes that the jobs are separate.
Yeah, and we see that as a profession also, and our profession kind of thinks about firm size in tiers, right? So we've got the big four, right? So the big giants, multinational CPA firms. You've got another bucket called the major firms group, and Brown Smith Wallace recently moved into that kind of major firms group,
yeah,
right?
We're excited.
That's super exciting. And below that tier of firm size, you've got what our profession likes to term the G400 group, and then you've got small firms and sole practitioners. So if you look at firm size in those types of kind of bands or buckets, and firm administrators like you and your peers, where do you see some of the differentiators with how many Amandas there may be at a different firm?
Yeah, I think it's all over the board. Unfortunately, I don't think it's once you hit 100, you make sure you have this many. It maybe should be. I think guidance on something like that would be helpful to both leadership and those in a firm administrator role. One of the things that I hear a lot from people in this role is just how busy they are, how much time they don't have to breathe or to think of how to improve things. But nobody knows. Exactly what you said. Nobody knows, if you're 30 or 100 or 1,000, how many of those type of roles that you should have. And so it just varies based on leadership and kind of the firm culture and how they value that asset. If it's overhead, well, then you're going to have a very lean team.
Right.
If it's a strategic position for the growth of their firm, then you're going to have a broader base of that administrative management department.
Yeah, and that's perfect. And I know we want to talk a little bit about that here a little bit later in the podcast, the idea of valuing CPA firm administrators and empowering those types of things. Staying here for a second on size and roles, let's talk a little bit about hats. We talk about depending on the firm size and kind of what roles and responsibilities different firm administrators have. How many different hats can a firm administrator like you wear at a firm?
I think it is endless.
I think so too. But what are some of those things? You mentioned HR, maybe process.
Yeah,
what are some of the things?
Standard ones usually are HR, marketing, facilities, all of those kind of things wrapped up in one. Also involved in the culture management, performance management, those kind of things. And then as you see the bigger firms, you have departments for those things. So there's a marketing department, an HR department. But at the smaller firms, that firm administrator is all of those things wrapped up in one. Yeah.
Yeah, and how challenging is that? I know maybe not your career, but you see certainly professionals and peers at smaller firms and having those conversations at your roundtables. How challenging do you see that may be for firm administrators wearing maybe 6, 7, 8 different hats?
Oh yeah, I think it is challenging. I think it goes to the hours expectations. A lot of times the managing partner might not realize all the things that are happening on that person's desk behind the scenes so that they can do their job better. But I think that if the managing partners are willing to listen when the person in that position says it's time to hire help, then that can go a long way, because obviously there's always budget constraints and there might be a reason why the team is very lean. But if you're a strategic thinking firm and you're wanting to grow, having that person at the table and getting their insight on where that point might be for them because there's a lot. I don't know any firm administrators who have free time,
Right.
to look for work or to, sometimes not even take a step back to evaluate what they're doing. So I think at the smaller firms, there's a lot that goes on that one person. But even at the larger firms, there's no less to do. The breakout of those responsibilities might be different, but anybody in this position in any size of firm is busy all the time.
Right, and in your role now, and in your previous roles, would you consider yourself maybe at a larger firm kind of a specialist, or do you still kind of carry the wearing multiple hat tendencies?
No, I think with this new position, I have been able to specialize, like you said, step into a role that is specifically process improvement, which I love to do. And so that's been a fantastic change for me to be able to really zero in on making processes better, what technologies are going to help us do that, and then working with those involved to execute it. So yeah, more specialization for me right now, which is I'm very thankful for the opportunity to be able to do that.
Yeah, and that's fantastic. So as let's say differentiate, stay on this for a second, a firm administrator wearing many hats versus as you maybe get to a larger firm and specialize, where do you go for training for those various types of roles and responsibilities? It's not like you come out of college with a degree in CPA, firm administration, or practice management or something like that.
Right.
How do you grow into different roles and responsibilities?
I think the honest answer is a lot of self-learning. At least that is kind of what my track has been. Finding those books or those podcasts or those conferences that you can view on YouTube or something like that. Thankfully, I think that the consultative type skills are kind of mainstream right now, and that's a lot of what someone in a firm administrator role uses every day.
Right.
Communication, people skills, team building. So that's been fantastic. There's also, firms out there that are specifically trying to equip this role, like Boomer Consulting or some of those who have had a voice in the firm administrator market for a long time. That's one of the huge benefits to our Missouri group of being tied with CPA,
Right.
FMA. They have a national conference that is excellent. This last year, it was paired with the AICPA Engage.
Right.
I went to that. It was fantastic offerings across the board. So being able to bring those back to those who didn't get to go and talk about those issues and recommend the books or the podcasts or whatever it is to help us learn as a group and learn from each other's experiences.
Right. So the big kind of the knowledge providers talking about CPA firm administrators and training. You mentioned Boomer, CPA FMA, the AICPA, all fantastic, kind of top end knowledge groups, and then bringing those back down to the local level through your communities, having those quarterly roundtables so that you and the folks that we see on a regular basis are talking about a lot of the same things that we're hearing nationally, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
So, and then, one last thing on this topic, I think, in your experiences, what would you like to see maybe change in the way that our profession thinks about and talks about and views CPA firm administrators from just a knowledge level or a kind of a utilization level or how many Amandas might I need for my firm to really grow and thrive and be powered? What would you like to see change on that front?
I would love to see that role valued and empowered, not seen as overhead, seen as a strategic position. It personally in that position and others I know, like our job is to make the firm more successful,
Right.
because of what we can do, and really being able to step into that, making it a resource, like you said, the personal development, the ability to go to conferences or training because I know I have the freedom to step away from my everyday job. Not everybody has that. So being able to do that, giving them a voice when, whether it's management meetings, partner meetings, firm strategy, people in those roles really are the glue, I think, between the management and the staff. They usually have a very good idea of what real life is in the trenches of those firms. And so capitalizing on that and being able to use their voice and their knowledge to make the firm even more successful.
And I think that's fantastic. So, when we talk about things like being able to be the glue, to bring conversations from different areas in your firm together, all kind of in the wheelhouse of CPA firm practice management, how do you do that? How does that happen maybe at your firm that you see, and how does that happen in other firms as you hear maybe even different size firms, those peer professionals talking about being that glue, bring the conversations together and then power the firm? How does that happen?
It definitely starts with leadership. That's really where it starts, empowering the person in that position to be at the table in all of those different conversations. In my previous roles and even my current roles, there is a being part of the teams where the staff are together in a team to accomplish things. And that gives you a lot of access to various levels of the firm. But then also being in the partner groups. So whether that's partner meetings or partner focused groups, because you need to be able to hear from both sides and then to be able to make those both productive relationships. If you can let the partners know what the staff are saying in a safe, strategic way, but then also be able to communicate the partner's vision down, I think that's where the magic happens. Being able to be in the room on both sides, being able to be that connector that kind of keeps the culture, keeps everybody moving in the same direction, and is the eyes and ears to know what's going on.
Yeah, and I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, you maybe many of your peers, that's part of the core job is to actualize both of those things, right?
Absolutely.
So taking the firm strategy and then all of these processes and procedures and making them work and, really trying to make it work seamlessly, right? I know that's a super hard job, but, being able to communicate both ways, I know is maybe super important, but also challenging at times. How, in your experience and others' experiences, how have you been able to kind of overcome maybe some challenging conversations where maybe those two things aren't syncing up just right?
Patience. Lots
Fair.
of grace. One thing that I continue to learn is we're all people. So everybody, needs a different approach maybe than the next person. And just being willing to be patient with yourself, be patient with others. I'm a person who likes change to happen very quickly, and I have high expectations when we're trying to make something happen, but everybody does not move that quickly. So just being willing to continue to have the conversation, to continue to show what is available or what the future could be. If you have suggestions or those kind of things, would be the key. And you've got to develop yourself. So those communication skills, being a professional, those kind of things, the more you read, the more you learn from others, the better you'll be in your position. And so that's something for me personally to be able to, process through something like a Dale Carnegie, book to where I can apply those. And that's me being able to implement those immediately.
That's fantastic. And you mentioned a couple of the things on that front. How much does that communication and the clue go to CPA firm culture? CPA firm culture is, it's a sticky idea sometimes. I think it feels like you can't quite grab what exactly is firm culture, but certainly there are elements of firm culture. Where do firm administrators exist kind of and help build and sustain and develop firm culture?
I think if you have somebody who is effective in that role, they're almost like the keeper of it. So the managing partner, it might start there, might start in the strategy meetings with the partners, figuring out what they're doing. But they have full-time jobs. So in my view, in my experience, it's kind of been that firm administrator person who then takes it out and implements it and, kind of figures out which initiatives we need to adjust maybe because it's not in line with the vision. They're also the ones usually hearing the things that, oh, well, it's not really like this, or,
Right.
the missteps, and they're able to correct those if they're empowered to do so, or bring it to the partner group. Did you know that this is happening? We should make an adjustment. And I think it just goes back to being those eyes and ears, that connector to know what is going on in the firm, and then being able to correct course when needed.
Yeah, and let me ask you: are those things? Do you find like building and maintaining firm culture intentional, or are these the things that happen kind of in the corners of the office, or maybe even outside the office at firm events? Is it all of those things combined? How do you define firm culture?
I think it's both. Unfortunately, I wish it was this easy checklist and formula, but it doesn't seem to be that.
Right.
You can make core values and you can educate your people on what they are, but they really have to match what that real life is. And
Right.
what the real life is exactly what you said. What happens outside the office, in the lunchroom, all those things. That's the culture of your organization. And hopefully it matches,
Right.
what you want your core values to be. But that takes intention, definitely. If you have a family, you know how intentional it is just to get your kids to, replicate your culture that you want them to. And the same is true when you've got a firm of staff that you're wanting to all keep going in the same direction.
Yeah, and I think that we hear that quite a bit. It's something that our profession kind of talks about all the time. This idea of firm culture and how to build it, and how to grow it, and what is it. I have not heard of a solid definition or checklist. Only these kind of big topics, and in many ways, I think you and your peers being the keepers of CPA firm culture, and I know that that's going to be challenging. So it's not like something that you can do to kind of move into process automation and technology. Another topic that I think that we talk about quite a bit at our roundtables, and it's kind of pervasive in our profession. Switching gears just a little bit, let's talk about technology and being kind of the force that underpins CPA firm process and project management and management. Technology and CPA firm administrators. Where is the intersection there?
That is a great question. A lot of the firm administrators I know are driving that change. They're able to see that the process could be made better by a technology, but they're not always the ones. So if the firm partners or leadership are out attending things where they see that technology, then hopefully they're able to bring it back, and the firm administrators are able to get on board to execute and to get, if you have an IT team or those kind of things. It seems like those in the firm administrator role, and obviously they're the kind of get the job done,
Right.
Make things happen, and they want to do it as efficient as possible. So especially like you said, in our roundtables, their ears are always open for something that will help their firm do things easier, more efficiently, more securely, whatever those things are that your firm needs. I think again, if they're involved, then they're helping execute, helping making sure it happens.
And it's the execution part, right? So it is what professionals are implementing and managing new technologies as they're brought into your firm, or even not new technologies like blockchain, which is kind of way out here,
right?
But even the idea of new firm practice management tools, those types of things, and how they may integrate with other firm practice management tools. Is that something that firm administrators generally kind of take the reins and make sure that those tools are implemented effectively, kind of kick the tires a little bit, and then report up, down, and across?
Yeah, I think it again depends on the size of the firm. If you've got an IT department, then they may be doing that. If you are IT,
right,
then you're definitely more involved. I think something that comes up at every one of our meetings is your time and billing system, and none of them seem to be perfect, but we're always talking about, well, what is better? Do I need to look at this other one? What have you seen in this other one? which is great to be able to have that community to talk through the pros and cons of any new technology, whatever it is, so that we can have conversations about how that might benefit my firm, what things I need to watch out for before I go and do it, so that I'm prepared. And I've seen that happen in our community, to where we can tell each other what our experience has been before they go and, sign up for something.
Right, and some of the things you may be looking for firm process improvement, maybe team member usability, back-end support from whatever providers you're getting, even time efficiencies and billing. What are some of the other things that you've seen or you've heard that kind of are top of mind as you're assessing or your peers are assessing new technology to bring in and implement?
Yeah, centrally located things are very important right now. Most of the time that means in the cloud, but then also the security of the cloud. Another conversation we keep having is whether you should go to the cloud or not. And we have people all over the board in our community, and so we're able to talk about that. But I think we're seeing, our people work from home, our people work from clients, then they work from the office. So centrally locating whatever it is we need to get to, making it easy to get to, making it efficient to where if I'm going to use a technology, it works like I expect, not it wastes time because there's a lag or something like that. Automation, it doesn't have to be something like RPA, but if there are things like I've been investigating and using SharePoint a lot over the last year, if there are things like that have built-in automation options, being able to use things like that for sign-offs or, even your HR forms, being able to take some of the human time out of those things, because we all know, we've all got full-time jobs. So if we can save any time on those, with those functions like you were talking about, then I think it's important.
Yeah, and that lines up directly with what, our profession is seeing. Big picture is automation, kind of having technology, implementing new technology to take out some of the more, kind of mundane tasks. I was gonna say another word or two, but mundane's a good one, and it's something that we've talked about in other podcasts too. How do you see technology in your space, in implementation, kind of powering your CPA firm of the future? It's a big question. Some of the things like, year one or two team members, if they were spending historically, hours and hours, moving data around or kind of ticking in time, and your firm at your size has bots doing that now. What are you seeing with your professionals and maybe even firm administrators, maybe different roles, on those process automation kind of band? Where are you guys?
I think that it's something we're personally aware of. Something that it makes me think of is there's always additional things to learn. So you're right, we may not be seeing a first year staff doing those mundane things, but it might provide more opportunity to learn new skills. Power BI, for instance, is something that we're seeing our clients ask about. So we have taken a chunk of our staff, they're learning it, they're going to be able to help clients with it and internal solutions as well. So I think there's always going to be more things to do, more things to learn, whether that's technology or processes or even client relationship. The opportunities are endless. So I don't know that we're going to have them sitting around with nothing to do.
Sure, yeah.
However, it will take a mindset shift. If you're used to them just doing, these level 1 tasks, it's going to take some intention to rework that once the technologies are in place, like you were saying, and it'll just, then it will become the new normal. But yeah.
And do you think that, many of your peers are, you mentioned, tuned into these things? Are you talking about these things with your peers, maybe CPA, FMA, the AICPA, the role of firm administrators in helping to kind of encourage and make those changes at CPA firms? Are you guys dialed in also?
It's probably something we should talk about more because I think, like you said we do play an integral role. It's not something that we have spent a lot of time intentionally planning for, and maybe we should. But we both said, technology is a constant conversation, what we're seeing coming, what someone else is using. But I would also say, to be able to do that effectively, we've got to have the bandwidth to do that. So it might be for that firm administration person, it might be evaluating what's on your plate, because maybe you do need a few extra hours to look at the technologies and what's coming and plan for that strategically. And you've got to be able to make the space to do that.
Yeah, and certainly, excuse me, I think that starts with being a part of those conversations.
Right.
So I'd like to shift gears, and I know you're really passionate about this one. Let's talk a little bit about what it means in kind of in your experience and what you've seen to empower professionals at your level, CPA firm administrators. We talked a little bit before about being a part of the conversation, about bringing CPA firm administrators up to partner level conversations, and then across over to staff level conversations. What does empowering CPA firm administrators mean to you?
To me, it means giving them a seat at the table. And every firm works differently. But I was very lucky when I first started my career to have a managing partner who knew the value of that. So it wasn't day one that I was in the partner meetings, but it became one of the most valuable things, because I was in the room hearing the conversations. No one had to come catch me up afterwards. And I was immediately able to execute on anything that fell on my plate to do. And I think that that's where it starts, is being able to view someone in that position as a strategic asset for your firm. Not an overhead, not somebody who, maybe just manages these tasks, but they really can be as integral and strategic as the partner group will allow them to be. And that's to the benefit of the firm. So maybe even just leadership considering how that person could help make the firm better or strategically move them forward, and giving them that seat.
And where do you see kind of the COO kind of role of a firm administrator kind of rising to that level of having a seat at the partner table and the decision-making table? Where do you see that kind of in the future for the firm of the future? Is that where you'd like to see things head? Do you see again, at different firm sizes, that information and those invitations to be part of those conversations going up kind of the chain? How many, like if there are 50, kind of Amandas at a big firm, where do you have those conversations where they're all engaged or some of them are engaged, those types of things?
Yeah, I don't know if I know the answer to that, because like I said, it depends on the leadership and the role of that firm administrator. They might be managing a team of 50 people, and if they're able to do that very well and communicate those things, then it might be seamless, with them just being involved. But you might have a broader team to where it's more decentralized. There might be a handful of people who are directors over HR, facilities, those kind of things, and maybe they're all in the room. We have some firms that are like that, and I think just being willing to evaluate what will be most effective for your firm, having the conversation, just being able to think about it to see what would work best is going to be important. And it's not going to be the same answer for everybody.
For every firm, and I know you guys are lucky because you're a big firm, pretty centralized here in St. Louis.
Sure.
Some of your peers, and I know we've had these conversations in roundtables where there are multiple offices with multiple locations, maybe either in one jurisdiction, regionally, or even multinationally if you're a big firm. How challenging do you think it would be to have these same conversations the farther out you go with firm locations? Does the idea of powering a firm with multiple locations change if you make that distinction?
I think it depends on the goals of that firm, because you're right, there's many options and it's done many different ways where, per location, or it might be more of a corporate structure where there's someone at headquarters,
Right.
More or less making those decisions. And I think it just depends. I think if you're doing it intentionally, then you're going to be able to hopefully get the results that you need. I think the different locations, depending on who is in your admin operations team, has a whole lot of challenges. And so that would, be standard for all of the things. But I think just if the more things we're able to do intentionally instead of just let them happen
Right.
because we acquired somebody and now we have a new location, the intentional replication of our culture, the intentional replication of how we're going to put processes and procedures in place, and the communication of what everybody in these roles does and how that helps everybody is important. Over communicating all of those things so that everybody on your team understands the roles that everybody plays.
Yeah, and it's that you make a good point about, especially with how hot the merger and acquisition market is with CPA firms nationally, bringing in team members to, maybe a really great culture that have been used to a different culture. I've heard many times that can be challenging. Many times it works out well. Unfortunately, sometimes that may not be the best fit, and that's that those are things that not only the folks who are working on the deals have to think about, but when you go to implement them,
Right.
I can't imagine how challenging those things might be. Have you had any
Yes.
experience on that front?
Yes. I have had a couple in my various roles where there has been a merger and acquisition, and I think everybody's learned something on all of them. I've heard of other people doing it very well, and then, like you said, sometimes it's not done so well. But I think communication is the key part, and making sure everybody in the situation feels valued. Sometimes we skip over that to get, to the next thing. But I just think in this day and age, we have to make sure everybody feels a valued part of the process.
Yeah, I agree. And kind of in that vein, with challenges, can you think back through your career? And this is the challenge question. What was maybe the single biggest professional challenge that you've worked on and been able to kind of wrestle with and overcome with implementing something brand new, with one of your positions that you've been in, working with team members, even having some of these conversations within our profession? What's a really big challenge over your career that you've grappled with and been able to kind of tackle?
I feel like when you're trying to do something new, there's always those kind of things. So when I was at Elliott Robinson, we transitioned our time and billing system, which if you're in any kind of firm administration role, you know how big of a deal that is.
It's rough.
So when I started, they had been using the same time and billing system for a long time. I think any instruction anyone could give me, printed, was a very old spiral, here's what we got when we bought the program.
So what is this, right?
Yes,
okay.
yes. But it wasn't meeting the needs anymore. And we were growing. Thankfully, the partner group was on board, yes, we see the potential of this. But that really just sat with me. The execution, like you said, the evaluating, the training of the staff, all of the things to make sure that those people were able to use it effectively and that it worked. Working out the IT part, figuring out what it would do, why it didn't do it when you thought, and all of those things. So that was something for me that was obviously very challenging, but a thing that I take pride in. I think it went very well, and we were able to gain quite a bit from that transition.
Well, kudos. I hear some really big win stories on that front with time and billing implementation changes and some horror stories. But and these are things that we do talk about regularly at these awesome roundtables that you put together. So I'd love to ask you a little bit about kind of your thoughts on community. A lot of your awesome peers that we get a chance to talk with, on a regular basis. Where does community come from for firm administrators?
I think it's really important that they have connections with people who do similar jobs. Unfortunately, not very many other people within your firm understand what a firm administrator does. But to be able to connect with people who do the same job, even if the firm looks different, the size is different, our titles are different, we understand and we value what we do every day. And it is very important to have a group of people who say that to you and who understand the ups and the downs of your job every day, and they value what you bring to your firm. Because we're able to relate just in a different way because of what we do.
Nature, yeah.
Yeah, and so being able to have a local community to where like our roundtables, we're getting together face to face, but then it's very valuable even to have a national community, which is why we are so excited to partnership with the CPA FMA, because now you can go to a national conference and sit with people in the same firm size as you, but in a different location, and be able to make those kind of connections also. So then you're broadening that community.
Yeah, and CPA FMA, another great organization, friends of the societies as well. And also, tying that back into kind of our learning conversation development from earlier, there's a designation associated for CPA firm practice managers. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. It is the professional accounting firm managers, and they offer that through an application, certain training and recommendations. And really it's seen as just that designation that you are a skilled professional firm manager. And you even work through some of the responsibilities and the things that you do with your managing partner. That's part of the application process. And it's been great to hear just what visibility that has done for someone in a firm administrator role, to be able to have something to facilitate that conversation of what it is you really do every day. And then to get buy-in to go and get this credential that, it says to the rest of the world that you also have those skills.
Right, and I've seen how powerful that is. There are several members of your community here in Missouri that had that designation. I've heard some good things about the kind of the process, and the feedback coming back has been fantastic. Would you encourage other professionals to maybe take a look at least?
Oh, absolutely. I think that it is a credential that's highly valuable. Like I said, even the process of it will get you in some conversations that are probably good for your relationship with your managing partner, to give some visibility to that. It's also a great reason to have a conversation about the association and being able to go to that conference or to connect with those people, in addition to getting that credential. Especially, I think all of us are always looking for ways to, further develop and show what skills we have. The training that is within that program is very beneficial to someone in a firm administrator role. It better equips them to, again, make their firm successful. So I would highly recommend it for sure.
Yeah, and it's something that I think that, the broader CPA profession, it's one of the pillars that helps define CPAs and CPA firms, lifelong learning. I don't know if there are ethics, kind of baked in with the credential. I'm guessing that there are. And then all the good things that go along with professional development and learning. So that's fantastic, and I want to make sure that are there any other topics that you'd like to chat about here this morning and cover? Is there anything else you'd like to chat about?
I don't think so.
Okay, well, in that case, it's been a fantastic morning. I want to thank you so much for joining me, and we'll see you next time.
All right, thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Please comment below if there are topics you would like to see us cover, and make sure to subscribe.